Good morning, y'all. Today is the day where I'd like to share a story with you about a little blue jay named JJ. Now, to start with, I need to give you a little bit of background information. I was living in Fort Mitchell, Alabama. My dad was stationed at Fort Benning, Georgia. He was in the Army, and we lived in a trailer park. And just off to the side of this trailer park was a place that we called Dumpy's Playpen. Well, Dumpy, from what we were told, used to be a donkey, or he was a donkey, and he had passed away many years ago. But his playpen was still there. It was probably a 2-acre pasture that was surrounded by a barbed wire fence. And this was so long ago that the pine trees had grown into large, enormous trees. And myself and my brother and the kids in the trailer park where we lived loved to go into Dumpy's playpen and play. It became our playground. And we were down there one day playing, and I heard this ruffling noise. And I stopped and I listened, and there was that noise again. So of course, me being me, I became very curious, and I started to follow the noise, and there was this metal bucket, and the noise was coming from that bucket. So I squatted down, and I looked in the bucket, and there was this little tiny bird, and its wing was caught in a broken part of the bucket. Well, I've always been very compassionate towards animals, and I couldn't walk away from this situation. So I put on my thinking cap, and I ran home. Now I was either in the first or second grade, so I was young. But I ran home, and my solution was to get a paper bag from my mom and catch this little bird, because now I had a pet. There was no question in my mind. I was gonna rescue this little bird and raise it up to be my very own blue jay. Well, my mom, excited as I was dancing in the living room. Please, Mom, give me a paper bag, give me a paper bag. She wanted to know why, and so I told her. And of course, she didn't believe, that I would be successful in catching this baby bird. So I was all out of breath from the excitement and the run that I had to make home. And I got my second wind, and I ran back down into Dumpy's pen where that little metal bucket was, and sure enough, that little bird was still there. Its wing was still caught in the crevice of this broken metal bucket. So I took my paper bag, and I reached down, and I got the little bird, and I carefully got its wing out of the crack. I put it in the paper bag, and I folded the top of the paper bag over so the little bird couldn't get out. And I ran home with this bird. Well, my mom was shocked, needless to say, that I had been successful in catching this little bird. So she arranged some sort of little something to keep the bird in until my dad got home. And when he got home, he graciously went out and got some chicken wire and some boards, and he built a cage for this little bird, not knowing if it was going to live or die, but let's make Robin happy, okay? Excuse me. So he built a beautiful wire cage for JJ, and it had perches, and the kids in the neighborhood were all excited about keeping JJ alive. So we went out into the field next to Dumpy's pen with fly swatters, and we were catching crickets. That's good coffee. So we were all catching crickets, and we proudly went back home, showed all the dead crickets we got to my mom, and she put them in a little butter container and covered them over, and one by one she started feeding them. She used tweezers, and she'd pick up this little cricket with a tweezer, and JJ would just gobble it up. So my mom said, she reassured us kids that this was a small chance that JJ would survive, and if he was still alive in the morning, then we had a good chance of rescuing this little bird. Well, as time went on, JJ thrived. He just grew into this beautiful blue jay, and he would sit right here on my mom's shoulder as she would go outside and hang up the laundry on the laundry line, clothesline, and he would fly off into one of the pecan trees that were nearby, because the trailer park in which we lived was in a pecan grove. And he would fly a little way off, and he would watch my mom, and then he would come back and he would sit on her shoulder, and they would go in the house. And what I never realized was JJ became my mom's bird and not mine. But for a young child, that was my bird. That was my bird, JJ. I had named him, and he was doing good, even though, my mom was taking care of him. So my mom got worried that JJ would fly off, and she wouldn't see him again or be able to tell who he was. So she took red food coloring, and she painted a circle on his belly so that we could identify him when he was up in the trees. Well, we had JJ for a good 6 months, and he stayed right around. He became part of the family. He would come inside at night to sleep in his cage, and my brother and I just had so much fun with this bird. Well, at the time that we lived in Fort Mitchell, Alabama, the Vietnam War was in full force, and my dad got his papers to go to Vietnam. And I hope you don't hear what's going on. Oh, here it goes. My vacuum's empty in the dustbin. It's only going to take a minute. I'm sorry. Time for me to have a sip of coffee. I forgot Peggy was running through the house cleaning the floors. So anyway, my dad got his papers to go to Vietnam, and my parents decided that the best thing to do, rather than for my mom and my brother and myself to stay in Fort Mitchell, Alabama, he would move us to his hometown with his parents, my grandparents. And that's the plans that took place. And what were we going to do with JJ? Was he going to be able to make the make the trip that far, and would he be able to survive the winters in New Hampshire. Well, out of love for JJ, my parents decided that that wasn't a good idea to move him, but they did load us in the car, loaded JJ in the car, and my dad drove him 25 to 30 miles away, hoping that he would enjoy the forest and other blue jays. Excuse me. I always have to burp when I'm doing this. I'm so sorry. So that we did with heavy hearts. We took JJ 25 to 30 miles away, and we said our goodbyes. And of course, the whole family was sad, so it was a quiet drive home. And for the next couple of days, we were trying to recover our emotions from having to let JJ go into the natural setting that he deserved. Well, my mom is outside hanging up clothes again, once again on the clothesline. This was a daily chore she had. And here comes JJ and lands in the tree that he loves so much. And then he jumps down on her shoulder. And my mom was thrilled, but we were all amazed that JJ could make that 30-mile trip back home. We didn't think he would be able to return back home. Well, the newspaper people got wind of the story, and they came and they took pictures of JJ and my mom, and they had a little write-up in the local newspaper about how my mom had rescued this bird. And with Fort Mitchell, Alabama being a small little community, my mom became famous in the community for birds, rescuing birds. And before we knew it, we had a whole living room full of baby birds that needed to be rescued, even though my parents were trying to get everything packed up and moved to New Hampshire. So I don't remember what happened to all those little baby birds that the people brought, but I'm sure my mom, did the best that she could do in rescuing them and keeping them healthy and letting them go. But we didn't have a lot of time left in Fort Mitchell. And, as a child, you don't have a sense of time. I don't know if it was a week or a month before we moved. But my mom did the best she could with JJ and didn't let him inside anymore. And just, let him navigate his own healing process and becoming accustomed to nature again as best he could. And he did. He lived outside in that pecan tree, and Fort Mitchell, Alabama became his life. And this is a fond memory for me because I love animals, and they bring me a sense of peace. And I think that's probably where my love of chickens came from. Because I do love going out in the morning and sitting on my front porch with my cup of coffee, and I listen to the different songs of all the birds. And as I was doing that one day, I thought of JJ, and it brought a smile to my face. So this is the story of my little blue jay with the red circle on his belly, and I would like to think that he lived out a very happy, healthy life for a blue jay. Thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you later. Until the next video, please like, subscribe, and join my community. I'm trying to grow my channel, and I love hearing from y'all. If you want to leave a comment, please do so. I will reply. And y'all have a great day. Thank you.